morning, Intenders.
Good morning.
Welcome to Morning Intentions. Today is Wednesday, February 4th. Thank you for joining us once again. And Annette, thank you for joining me once again behind these microphones.
This month is going to be a turning point in my life, I can tell.
What?
Well,
say that again.
Well, it's going to be a turning point because you know how when you're kind of like, I'm going to use the cleaning analogy because that's something I love to do. You know how you clean and you kind of clean and it looks nice. And if people didn't really know what a clean house was or didn't know what your house looks like when it's clean, they'd say, oh yeah, that looks okay. But you know that there's, a little dust in the corners, or you know that under the bed you've stuffed some stuff. What I'm finding that just these few days that we've been doing this, I've been holding myself to account because one of the parts for me about my word of the year and being anchored is I don't want to abandon myself this year. That's the anchored part. I want to feel the anchoring. And that's what alignment is. We feel what we've listened to from last month, what we've noticed, and then we start feeling, am I living according to what I listened and noticed last month? Am I being true to myself or am I abandoning myself? That's what alignment is helping me to see. It takes being very intentional because there are people and situations where we are not aligned. And like for me this year is I want to be aligned. I want to be anchored. That's why I'm so looking forward to this entire month of what we're going to talk about.
Well, I'm looking forward to it now too. I was looking forward to it anyway, but that is a big realization that there is this element of alignment with self that you're just ready for.
You and I, we teach all of our clients about the inner rug. Okay, so that is a way that we've explained alignment without using those words. You know what you really want, or you know something. Maybe you can't articulate it exactly the way you'd like, but you know something just doesn't fit. When we're acting in a way that's coming from our inner rug, like we can feel an inner rug and do it anyway. That's being out of alignment. And that is self-abandonment. Because if we don't act in alignment with ourselves, we're not honoring who we really are. We're not honoring what we've listened to and noticed and what we're wanting to learn. We also, all of us know the experience of peace. We know that when we listen and we notice and then we act in according to that and allow in according to that, we feel peaceful. That's why this can't be a performance. That's the wearing of a mask that we talked about yesterday. When I'm performing, when I'm that old people pleaser that I used to be, that was a performance. I didn't think of it like that, but that was a coping strategy that was truly a performance. I don't need to perform for anybody anymore. I have to show up for myself first so that I can nurture and love myself enough that I have love to extend out to somebody else.
Knowing the difference between that felt experience of anchored and for me, wholeness, if you participated last month, listening and noticing for what is our word of the year, what word is on our hearts. We didn't think about what word should we have, because actually, if you remember from December, I thought my word should be trust. But then I listened and I noticed, and wholeness resonated more with what was inside because I listened and I noticed to what was really true for me. Now, we can put on that mask and I can say, oh, yes,
I'm just so whole.
I'm just so whole. And you could say, yes, and you could put on that mask because I'm just so anchored right now. I'm just anchored. I'm anchored to the floor. But are we trying to achieve it or are we trying to feel it?
And are we trying to impress somebody?
That's what we also have to watch out for. We can do things to impress other people.
Well, that's the mask too. But these things are subtle. That's where we have to remember that putting on a mask, we can feel it like, okay, I'm going to act like this now. Or we can kind of show up and subtly come from that place where we aren't even aware of it until we are. That's where you've listened to the podcast long enough. I started saying no, and it was so painful. I could not say no. And I would hear myself say yes when I really wanted to say no. Totally acting out of alignment. Totally abandoning me. But then when I finally learned to say no, and sometimes it's still a struggle, but when I finally learned to say no, that's the alignment part. Because I've listened, I've noticed, and then I'm actually showing up in a way that's true to who I truly am.
Let me ask you a question. Since you brought this up, I was hoping you would go there, saying yes when you really wanted to say no, and then the shift of saying no when you really wanted to say no and it was uncomfortable. You said painful. I never thought it was as painful as you're describing.
Oh, excruciating. It was excruciating.
In those moments where you said no when you wanted to say no, but it was painful, did it still feel more peaceful than when you said yes when you wanted to say no?
No. It didn't. It didn't feel peaceful until...
Did it feel true, though?
Well, it felt true, but...
Like, what was the felt experience for you? Because when we say, oh, it was so painful, to me, I've had those moments, too, where I went against the grain of what I've done. And while it was scary, while it was painful, there was still that little part of me that knew that it was the right thing.
Saying yes for me was a coping strategy. And when we let go of coping strategies, it's scary. It can feel like we're cutting off our left arm because we don't feel whole at all. This is something we haven't done at all. That's why we hold on to our coping strategies for so long. We hold on to these strategies because they've kept us safe. They're survival mechanisms. So when I'm saying no for the first year or two, I feel like I'm flying blind. I feel like the bottom's going to drop out. I don't feel anchored at all. Even though it's what I'm learning to do because I know it's true, it takes a while for all of this to start feeling, I don't really like this phrase, but the new normal. It takes a while for it to feel like, yeah, I can actually say what's true for me. And that's because we get so many emotional signals throughout our life that we just push away, push aside, push down, ignore. And then when we're actually coming to a place where we say, I'm going to say no, it's scary. It's so uncomfortable. And yet there is a flutter of peace, but not at first. And I don't want to give the impression that this is easy to do. That's why we spent an entire month listening and noticing. And now we're talking about let's now align our lives and how we show up with what we listened to, learned, and noticed. Saying that another way is, okay, Annette, you noticed that you say yes when you really want to say no. So now this month, we're going to practice saying no. This is a scary month. This is a month I'm not going to feel like myself. And yet this is such an important month. And that's where I shared yesterday is I'm noticing, cleaning in the corners a little bit, I still put a mask on in certain settings. And I don't even want to do that. Because if I do that, I'm not anchored.
I would like to give people a little bit of hope before we leave, because that can say like, oh, wow, it's just going to be painful. The pain doesn't last forever. It does get better, and it does get to a point where you say no, and you're excited that you say no.
Oh, I can remember the first time I said no, and the person was like, oh, okay. It's like, oh, you mean you're not going to bite my head off? Or you're not going to start crying? Or you're not going to say how disappointed you are? Because that's what I was always worried about. No, I want to be hopeful, but I also want to be real.
Yes, we have to be real, and I want us to be hopeful. And with that, our intention for today is I will align with myself, even if it's scary. I will align with myself, even if it's scary or uncomfortable, or as Annette shared, painful. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our day is better because you are part of our day. See you tomorrow.
See you then.